Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So on the table you see two wonderful guns, the Glock Gen 4, the Glock Gen 3. This one obviously being the Vickers Glock, okay, an FDE. So I've already done a review on that. If you haven't seen it, definitely take a look at it. Shoots really well, really like the handgun, haven't had any issues with it at all. It has been completely functional, has a DPMS recoil guide rod system in it. And it's just a really fun gun to shoot. It's pretty comfortable. Again, ergonomically, it's not the best, but for those of you who like Glocks, you know what I'm talking about. In regards to the Gen 4, again, Gen 4s are great as well. No issues with the Gen 4. This one has shot pretty well. No issues. You'll notice that I keep on adding new things to this Glock. I actually just put an Apex trigger on here, and I'll do a review on this one soon. Awesome so far. I have to say I love it. I actually put a spring kit in it as well. And so far this thing is just awesome. I mean, there's no other word for it. Just to kind of show you the trigger, and I'll just do it quickly. There's your take up and just another break. It's just a million times better than the stock trigger. Even the reset is nice and crisp. The take up is nice and short. Definitely made this gun, in my opinion, even better than when I first got it. Which brings me up to really the topic of this video. And honestly, guys, I know there's a lot of Glock haters out there. And I also know there's a lot of Glock fanboys out there. Now, I will tell you that I'm neither one. I am not a huge Glock fanboy, but I'm also not a Glock hater because I do know that Glock makes pretty darn good pistols. Now, we can sit here and we can debate over and over again how many failures Glock has had in regards to, you know, maybe failure to eject or weird ejection patterns and having to change the recoil springs or trigger assemblies. You know, whatever the problems were, that I think is going to be normal for most manufacturers of handguns. You know, right now my P10 is back with CZ because I have an issue with that. Hopefully I'll be getting that back soon. And, you know, so we can't ever say that there's been any perfect gun. Now, obviously, the moniker of Glock is Glock Perfection. And I would be honest and tell you guys, in my opinion, these are not perfect handguns. They're just not. There's a lot of things that you can sit here and say, this isn't perfect, that's not perfect. You know, you can start with the ergos. Not everybody likes the ergonomics of a Glock. You know, some people don't like the blockiness of it or the grip angle. For me, I've never really had an issue. I will tell you that for me, the Gen 3 is a little bit blockier than the Gen 4. It's just a little bit thicker in the grip. But overall, it hasn't been such a horrible problem that I don't like the Glocks, because I do. With that being said, obviously the out-of-the-box sights are terrible. You have those gold posts. A lot of people switch them out for something new. Obviously, the Vickers came with the steel sights from Ameriglow, and this one came with steel sights with a fiber optic front. So, I mean, that's a huge improvement from the sights that are standard with the handgun. You know, could we talk about the trigger? Yeah, I mean, this is your standard Gen 3 trigger. Again, the guns are clear. And you'll notice that the trigger take-up isn't, you know, it's not perfect, guys. It's not even that great. There's your kind of your mushy trigger grip, or your trigger, what's the word I'm looking for? Take-up, that's the word, or two words. And you'll notice that it breaks. It's a pretty clean break. The reset is fairly short. It's not super short, but it's pretty short. And then it breaks again with a nice clean break. So it's not the worst trigger out of the box. I know a lot of people say it's a terrible trigger. But one of the things that you'll notice even on this one, again, this gun is clear as well, is that with this trigger, once you put this in, I mean, there's really no take up there. That's where it is. And then it breaks. Again, nice short reset right there, and a very nice short break. So overall, you know, this trigger, it's not the best, but there's a lot of improvements that can be made, which is why I think this weekend I'm making this video. And what this video really is basically saying why I think Glock isn't perfect, but yet still an awesome handgun. And the reason why it's an awesome handgun is because, yes, there's all these issues. You know, some people don't like these finger grooves. Some people want it flat. Some people want this or that. But I think that's what makes Glock sort of the perfect handgun. And it's kind of weird to say that because it's not perfect. But the reason why I say sort of perfect is for the fact that you can do just about anything you want to these handguns. The Glock has the ability to add any aftermarket part you want for it. Triggers, mag releases, you know, your takedowns you can do, your slide release or slide locks you can change out. Anything and everything. You can add grip plugs. You can add new slides, new barrels, new sights. Anything and everything. And I think that's what makes Glock such an amazing handgun. Now, of course, some might say, yeah, but you're going to pay extra money for that. But you know what? In all honesty, guys, I don't want a gun that comes from a factory with everything on it already, because what may work for person A may not work for me. So in regards to the Glock, the way I look at it is I get basically a blank canvas to work with. And whatever I want to do with the handgun, I can do it. If I want to put a new trigger on, I can do that. If I want to put a couple of new springs on the interior, I can do that as well. If I want a certain set of sights for it, I can do that. So pretty much anything and everything. If I don't want these, these grip grooves here, I can grind them down. You can integrate a beaver tail if you'd like. I've seen, some companies that do that. So for me, I look at the Glock as perfect. And the reason being isn't because it's a perfect gun, but because it's a perfect gun to do things that you want to it that makes it your gun. Now, I know that might be difficult to, kind of put into perspective, but, to be honest, I'm going to just pull a random gun out here. So I have my P07. Again, you can see that's a TLR3 on there. And this is pretty much my home handgun. And, this is a great gun. And nobody would argue this is not a good gun. It is. It's got good ergonomics, pretty good ergonomics, almost Glockish like. The slide is nice. It shoots really well. The just everything about it, fit and finish is excellent. Even the sights are okay. I mean, you have the luminescent sight, and I switched out the front to a night sight. But overall, there's not much you can do with this handgun. Now, some might say, well, that's because the handgun is great. Well, that might be a matter of opinion. Do I love my P07? Absolutely. But there are some things that I don't like about it. For example, some people like this Omega trigger that's a little bit flatter than obviously the curved trigger that normally comes with a lot of the CZs. But for me, I don't really like it. Now, could I do something with this? Sure, I can go to Cajun Gun Works and put in a new trigger. But at the same time, there's a lot more things that can be done or have to be done to remove that trigger than, let's say, on this. When I took this Glock apart, I literally had this trigger on in like 10 minutes. I don't even think it took me that long, maybe the first time. And then I popped it back out, added a few more springs, popped it back in, and I was done. And I think that time it took me about 5 minutes. So the reason why I think Glock sometimes gets confused for a crappy gun is because people are looking for perfection. But the problem is perfection is different for every single person. So what might work for me may not work for you, and what might work for you may not work for me. So why not start with a Glock? Why? Because like I said, guys, it's like a blank canvas, and you're able to do anything and everything you want to it. So there's just some random thoughts. I'd love to see what you guys have to say about it. Leave some comments below. Tell me if you think, I'm right on target with that, or if you're a Glock hater, tell me why you hate Glock so much. I'm sure it's reasonable. I'm sure it makes sense. But I think you need to really consider just how good these handguns really are from that perspective. So I hope you guys have a great day. Hopefully you're staying safe. And as always, freedom is never free.